Welcome to the Tansson Talks show. I'm Brandon, the host of the show, and I always love doing this. Heading into episode 114, I am very excited to welcome my guest here today, Facundo. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I'm so delighted to have you. And so, first of all, how's your day going thus far today?
It's doing well, hopefully it's Friday. It was a busy day, but as I said, it's like the last day of the week, so I'm really happy to start the weekend.
Yes, this certainly is one of the best days of the week, and but I hope that you have a great weekend planned for you, and yeah, I'm excited to speak with you.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And so before we get started, are you able to go ahead and introduce yourself for the watching or listening audience here today before we get started?
Yeah, sure. So, for those who do not know me, my name is Facundo Luque. I'm from Argentina. I'm living there, far, far away. I'm a public relations graduate professional. I'm actually nowadays I'm working in Ernst Young. I'm do the quality and risk management communications and team management. And I have been there in the company for 2 years and a half, more or less. It's really cool from my point of view. And basically, what I do there, as I said, is internal communications and change management. Two things that I love to do. I don't know if you want me to tell like the full story the full bio, or you tell me what you prefer to do.
You can go right ahead.
Okay, great. So if we talk about myself and kind of my story here, I started doing public relations and communications in 2016, more or less, when I got into college. I got graduated in, just to give you an idea, a couple of weeks before the pandemic started. It was crazy for me, Um, at some point, through all those years, I really got involved in the profession. I got involved in PRSSA as a student, and I worked in different agencies while I was studying. I went through the entertainment market, healthcare, technology, even like the food market in general. I got different clients. I got, just to give you an idea, through 3 or 4 PR agencies that some of them were regional, some of them were from here in Argentina. And though that time, while I was in college and at the same time working, was really useful for me to understand how to do this profession. Which the good thing is that through the years, I started to learn more, to get more involved, and every year that passed, I loved the profession even more. You know, um, so once I got graduated, I got involved in PRSA, and I also started doing other jobs. At some point, I was also working as a content creator, which was really good for me, and at the same time, I got involved in some of the education market in terms of working for my university and also other university where I was going into the marketing area, and all that trip through the career was really something that allow me to meet great people that helped me through all the journey uh, until this time. Just to give you an idea, those were, let's say, I don't know. I mean, like 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, let's say six more or less. I think between college and the rest. I think it's a little bit more, but I'm not counting. But the thing is that 2 years ago, I got an opportunity to get into Ernst Young because I was in a stage in where I went through the agency side, the education side, but I was really expecting to get into the corporate side. I really love those big companies, and Ernst Young uh, gave me this opportunity, and I got involved there. And this is what I'm doing now, what I'm really happy for. And one thing that I got involved in my company as well, and I was also involved in the previous years, was diversity and inclusion. Starting in PRSA and also now in my company, I also developed a lot of initiatives and projects for that, and I'm really happy to be part of that. And at the same time, even speaking here, try to give a voice to everyone. That's really important. Not now, but always, basically. So that's a kind of summary of my professional field. I have more things to say, but I don't want to make this longer.
Absolutely no worries. Well, I'm just so delighted to speak with you, and I'm excited to truly dive into everything.
Great. Happy to hear that. You can ask me anything that you want, and I'm happy to answer. And of course, have this conversation, which I believe is really, really good for everyone. And I love what you do here in the podcast, all the interviews and everything.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I definitely know that you told me before that you had done your research, and so I'm very excited that you came in prepared, and I loved your introduction.
Great. Happy to hear that.
Yeah, I definitely had some follow ups to your introduction. I know that you've also provided some lovely topics of discussion as well, but I did want to actually start off by saying so overall, you mentioned that when you finished your time at university, it was just about 1 week before the COVID-19 pandemic, and so I want to ask you about that time. So, how was it for you? Leading up to graduation for your university, and then not only is that a changing point in your life, it was for everyone else's too, in the sense of the
Correct.
pandemic happening right afterwards.
Correct. So at that time, as you said, it was a big change for everyone. I think we got in a situation in where health, of course, turned into priority number one worldwide. You know, I believe before the pandemic, the vision and the view of health care in general was one, and after pandemic, this escalated like a lot in terms of priorities in life. So what I'm trying to say here is that at that point, for me personally, and through all the pandemic, I really got aware of how important and how sensitive at some point is our personal health, because from one way to another, a virus can come up. Some terrible things could happen, like the pandemic. So you know, one of my learnings is that you need to thanks every day that you wake up at some point, if you know what I mean. Like, because as I said, maybe from one day to another, something come up or something happened and you don't wake up. Just simple like this, or you cannot reach out the end of the day. So at the end, at the end of the pandemic, I was really grateful in that way in terms of health. I luckily, I just to give you an idea, I got the virus, but I didn't have any symptoms. You know, so it was really good for me. Um, and on the other side, if we talk about the profession, you know, uh, I was able to do what I wanted to do and work as communication, communication professional through that time, finding opportunities. I was lucky to, just to give an idea, to come across with some people that called me a shop at that uh, time that allowed me to keep working. And especially for me, working virtually was not bad at some point. I mean, it was not something difficult. That's what I want to say. That virtual life that everyone went through was not difficult for me. I was telling everyone that the only condition that I need to have is that if I'm working in a virtual way, I need to at least connect with someone. I need to do this turn on your camera, connect with someone, have a conversation. If I'm having this, even if I'm alone in my home and I'm working virtually, I'm I can go through that. If you know what I mean, I'm it will not be a problem for me. So that's kind of how I felt.
Well, that's great though that you were able to adapt quickly and that people were able to provide you opportunities to continue working virtually, and yeah, and overall not put you like out of work, but rather just sort of reshape how you work.
You mean reshape how that reshaped the way that I continue working, or in general, you mean?
A little mixture of both.
Okay, so basically, that change after the pandemic, this is a question that at some point I have been analyzing. First, of course, give us the opportunity and the awareness that we can do any work in a virtual way. I mean, not any work, but most of the works can be turned into virtuality. I mean, virtual side. There are some things that maybe in the past we thought that we were not be able to do that in a virtual way, but after the pandemic, there were a lot of transformations in a lot of processes, in a lot of shops, in where people got adapted, and we found ways to do this. And as a communicator, I'm happy to say that the thing that we bring to the table is essential to the pandemic world and in general, which is authenticity, which is stories, which is a way to connect with people, and that it could not be replaced through AI or through any kind of platform. So what I mean is that there were a lot of changes. There are a lot of changes that demonstrated that we are able to move on or going through that pandemic, even that everyone was virtual. And there were things like, as I said, real life connections or authenticity that we could at some point bring through this virtual work. For example, you know let's see this case. I'm talking to you, we are having a conversation. We have, both of us, we have the cameras, everyone can see us. This is something that in the pandemic, was the only way to really connect with someone. And of course, we have limits because maybe we will not see each other, never like face to face, but at least we can do this. In the past, maybe the idea of doing this and talking with people from another world, I mean, from another country, uh, was not really common, or people were not really aware that this was possible. That two people from far, far away between them were able to do this and even work like this. So we, as I said, we realized about a lot of things that at the beginning we thought that was not possible, but then we realized that was possible, and at the same time we were able to keep that authenticity as much as we can.
I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, I know even for my platforms with the podcast that I feel like it grew up in the pandemic, just how you were mentioning, even for your story with having finished university, that happened around that same time. And so for me, I had done podcasting a little bit earlier, for a few years independently, but it was January 2020 that I decided to start doing podcasting with guests. And so I'd only gotten 2 episodes in before the pandemic. And so as such, many of my early interviews, and even now, in 2025, have been about the pandemic, about resilience, and telling those authentic stories, like you were saying. And
Hmm.
so I'm so glad that, yeah, of course, I would have preferred to not have a pandemic, but
Yeah.
nevertheless, I'm glad that, that we're able to grow from it and now have the ability to connect like we do now.
Yes, I totally agree. And I will give you, another example. Well, also in the pandemic, I started working for a journalist. Uh, um, we basically, I was working as a producer in a TV show, and this TV show, of course, the recordings were in a studio in a really amazing place, a kind of palace. And when pandemic came up, we were like, we are able to do this still, after this. And yeah, why not? We can transform this. I mean, we don't need a studio. We can have this. Maybe we did not consider this in the past, but actually it's possible. And we got, it was crazy, but I like a lot of TV shows, but we got the recording and that was in the TV. I mean, then we were able to stream that through TV, and everyone were seeing that. And all the show was possible with us in our homes alone, each of us. So yeah. And the good thing is that we were able not only to move forward but to connect without people.
Definitely. I'm so glad that you were able to share that experience. And out of curiosity, what type of television show was it?
This was telecommunications technology, kind of communications show that short-lived from a really niche is correct, right, to say this? I don't want to get confused. Niche market, had, and this was in one of the channels in public TV. And this was really interesting because this was a talk show, with different leaders from the market. Uh, um, the conversations that you were able to hear there give you a lot of lessons. For me as a producer, because I was the one in charge of most of the things, because at the same time everyone was virtual. I was the one recording, editing, coordinating, and the good thing, is that, and the thing that I really like about doing that is that every time that we were doing a recording, you were able to learn something new. You are not talking with them, you were listening. I was like the one editing the all the episodes later, and I was like, listening all the material later, and was really really insightful at some point.
Well, that certainly sounds like an interesting show. As someone that got their start with doing technology based stuff, yeah, I certainly find that fascinating. My original podcast from 2017 was about technology, so
Hmm.
yeah, involved to what it is now. So that definitely sounds pretty cool. And how was your experience? I mean, being behind the scenes of that before I head a little bit backwards into your story.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, for me, it was really good, and that backstage thing was, I believe, really useful for me to learn in terms of uh, coordination of like anything. I was even like the one who were switching the cameras, like with one thing and the other, which is part of the basics things that the producer is doing in the floor, and the thing is that also allow me to, as I said, even meet new people, and or even to connect to them later, maybe, those gifts that we had.
That's great that you were able to direct do a little bit of the production side of things, and that's amazing. And taking a step back, yeah, I know that we have spoken about the end of your college journey, but taking us back to the beginning. So, had you always known that you had wanted to get into the communication field, whether public relations or otherwise?
So that's a good question. When I was deciding what to do, what to do in college, my first step was basically went through all the universities. Here in Argentina, I'm in the capital, Buenos Aires, and let's say that you have, I don't know, 30 universities, private universities, because I wanted to be in a private university. So I made sure to went through all of them and to hear all the options. You know, I at some point initially I knew that I wanted to do something related to people, to social skills, to and at some point, just to give you an idea, I was thinking about photography, and which was different, more an artistic side, international communications. You know, though those were really two main options. I was more into international communications because I really love the fact of connecting to people. But at some point, I remember I think my dad, or I don't know who, told me about this thing called public relations. I was like, what is that? And I got into session in the university, in one university. The university was UADE, that's the name. And I got there, I got into the session, and while they were explaining the career, the profession, they were like, this is this, you need to do this, and blah blah blah. I was there and I was like, this is my thing. The thing that came to my mind was, this is me. What they are saying there, that the professional needs to be, and what we need to do, and everything, is Facundo everywhere. So I really got excited, and after that session, got an appointment with the director of the career, and I got to him, and basically I asked him all the questions. I mean, everything, because I was like, okay, I know that you were like kind of selling me this in the session, but I really want to know what this is about. You know. He answered to me everything, and I really like it. And I started doing this, and every year, as I said before, got more excited. And I got more sure about that this thing was my thing. You know. Basically, yeah, I think I kind of that is how I decided.
Well, that's great though that you were able to. I mean, to have that influence and that you want to do something where you get to work with people, you get to be with technology, maybe in a different sense than you had originally thought, and being able to yeah, connect with other individuals. And I think yeah, public relations and the communication field as a whole just really do a great job. Yeah, in allowing for us to do that.
Correct. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
And yeah, and so overall, how did your time in university really help prepare you to get to where you are now? And is there anything that sort of shifted your path forward?
I get it. Yeah. So, uh, while I was studying, I think there wasn't maybe something, but when I got graduated, which was like, yeah, I mean, thinking now, I mean, this was like 5 years ago, more or less. Uh, that new insight that I really liked, and I'm developing now, was this idea of project management, and the business. Like, in terms of that insight or that new approach that I wanted to really develop in my career. That was even part of the program and part of what we were learning. But of course, the main thing is social skills. Those not soft skills. I mean, technical skills were something that were coming across through the time, and I really like it. And I thought about changing my journey to get an integral, profile in order to have both things. So what I'm trying to say here is that I was sure what I like, but I started having things that I also like to do. So I started to develop being those things, and now I'm even thinking about doing a master degree. You know, um, in project management, for example. I'm still deciding, but what I mean is that that kind of insight get into the way after graduated, after being graduated, sorry, and gave me this new perspective of a lot of things. in order to advance my career even more.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you're able to have experiences that were allowed for you to see different areas of communication, but that you were able to, I mean, continue to grow, and that I really love that you mentioned that you potentially, yeah, you're still deciding, get a master's degree in project management one day. I mean, that's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, once I got it, I will let you know. If you want, we can have another interview at that moment, and I can tell you the whole thing.
Yeah, well, that would definitely be exciting, to hear. And yeah, and so Facundo, I did want to ask too before we head into the lovely questions that you have provided. I did want to ask, so how was your experience in content creation? I mean, I definitely want to hear all about it. Of course, being respectful to your time as well.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of content creation, I realized how many things you can create. You know, uh, because basically I was able to create like a newsletter, an article, a training session, an event, uh, podcast, a TV show, a lot of all the any kind of audio visual asset. Having that experience and having that mix of disciplines, because it was not only communications itself, was graphic design, was video edition, was uh, like I don't know how to explain this, but like in terms of how to train people, because while you are trying to design a training for, or I mean, when I'm say training, I mean a kind of educational course, online courses like this, then where you need to understand how to teach people. These were more learning skills in term. I mean, sorry, teaching skills. Um, so you, content creation is about a lot of things, even copywriting when you are doing scripts, for example. And what I mean by this is that I was able to learn a lot of things, a lot of disciplines that were not only communications, that gave me that skill and that opportunity to offer people more completed things. What I want to say here is that once you are able to provide more to people, you are able to make the difference. Because you are bringing more solutions. And this is a 100% a business mindset. If you're able to bring better solutions, you are able to bring better opportunities, and in that way, people want want you there. So that's basically the big lesson that I learned through content creation. And of course, you need to spend time, you need to learn, you need to take courses, you need to really practice uh, to have those fully integral skills, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I definitely know what you're saying. I mean, I know for myself and content creation over the years that there's been so many different avenues I've uh, sort of dove into, whether it is from you know YouTube to podcasting to blogs to everything in between. And so I'm glad that you were able to have that experience, and hopefully it was able to greatly benefit you in the long run.
Yes, yes, was really good.
Yeah. So I definitely, of course, want to go ahead and dive into some of the questions and topics that you had prepared, because I think that these will provide a great benefit for those who are tuning in. But for the first one, I did want to say that many professionals hit a time in their career where you feel very stuck and uncertain. And I want to ask, so how was that experience for you? And have you had a sort of mid career crisis thus far in your career? I know for myself, I'm definitely interested in hearing a lot about this.
Yeah, no, no, I agree with you in terms of like there were a lot of people going through that. Personally, for me, I think I didn't have that kind of mid career crisis. I'm because at some point, for me, like I was really sure about a lot of things, and in terms of, I mean, instead of crisis, I got like more passion. you know. However, there were some moments in where I got into conflicting, I mean, not sorry, not conflicting, but challenging situations in where I really need to decide where I want to be. you know they were kind of mid, not career mid, not I will not say mid career crisis, but those kind of crises in where you don't know where to go. You know what, this is your thing and I love you and you love this, but you don't know really where to go. um the thing is that, and the first thing that I always like to say here, and I always like to tell everyone, is that for those mid-career crises that anyone can have in any kind of situation, the first thing that you need to keep in mind is that this is common. This is normal. It's not something bad, and it's not a failure. Because people see this as a failure and they say, "Oh no, this is not good for me," or maybe I'm wasting time. The thing is that you're not wasting time. Those crises actually are for you to grow. And if you're able to see that in that way, and if you're able to understand your mistakes or any things that is maybe not working in that way that you want to, you want to be, I mean, um, you are able to get great lessons. So, saying this, the first thing is that you know you say, this is common, this is not a problem, this is like a crisis, yes, okay, but it's not a problem. That's the mindset that we need to change. This is a challenge. Let's start saying challenge instead of issue or problem. A challenge is something that you can go through, you can learn from that, and you can become better. you know every time that I have this kind of crisis or this kind of situations in where I don't know what to do or I don't know where I want to be, what are the first steps that I do? So the first one is see and ask yourself, where do you want to go? What kind of impact you want to generate? That's the first question, because this is in terms of having a vision, you know, like the company. When you're creating the values, the mission, and the vision, this is the same thing with you. Vision, where you want to be, where you want to do. You know, that's the base. That's the basics. Once you have the vision, you need to ask yourself the second question, which is how willing you need to be to make that happen. Are you willing to go through these situations or to go through that you need to do that? you know uh, and then the next steps are seeing and analyzing yourself in terms of values and long-term goals, and what you are good to, and what are things that are difficult for you. This is kind of the classic analysis. um um Once you do all this, uh, you have this kind of clear scenario of what are kind of the next steps. If all this analysis and all this moment in where you do this, you are facing that challenge, if you know what I mean. Like, you are working on that, and of course, maybe you don't know exactly what to do next, because the journey change, and maybe the steps that you thought at the beginning are not here now. But if you know where you want to be, and you know how willing you are to do things, and you know yourself, you will be able to find those next steps, even if these are not the original ones. you know they are new ones. And at the same time, and this is like the final thing that I always do, is to always seek for mentorship, seek for coaching, or people that really can give you that external view. you know because sometimes when you are facing something, the only view or the only perspective that you have is your own. But once you bring those external perspectives, that give you the chance to understand everything better and to even see things that you will not able to see maybe. Thanks to this, you can understand everything better.
Oh, I absolutely agree, especially what you were saying about mentorship, because sometimes those outside perspectives really can change your vision. I know, yeah, over the past 2 months, I had done some on and off unofficial consulting, so to speak. And yeah, having that outside perspective, even though I might be saying the exact same thing as some of the other people, it it makes a difference, and I feel like you get heard a little bit more than someone else saying it.
Yeah, and the best situations, I was even talking about this with my boss today. I will give you this example. Today, I was happy that my boss and I were having a different thinking on a situation and actually campaign that we were developing, because I was like, yes, this is what we need. We even are part of two different generations. We have two different view of this. And this thing in terms of me having her external view on this is really helping me to create and develop something even better. And that challenges that I might be facing, and this external view, both things allow me to create something better, because there were things that I was not seeing. uh, and this is really good also because if there are situations in where you are surrounded by people that thinks exactly like you, and if you are surrounded always by those same thinkings, maybe depends on the case, you will always find the same solution. But if you start thinking in another way, maybe you can find new solutions. It's a kind of practical way for me. If you're always doing the same, and if you're always thinking in the same way, you will always get the same results. If you change your thing, you change your actions, different results. I don't know if that will be good or bad, but it will be different.
I love what you were saying. I mean, that is so true, though, because sometimes you just need to change it up because that's the only way that you can actually guarantee that something will change. Now, are you guaranteed to change in a better way? Maybe, maybe not. But nevertheless, sometimes you just need that push in a different direction.
Correct.
And so, have you had a mentor, as you were coming up in your career?
If you sorry, you mean if I was a mentor or if I got a mentor? I didn't get the last part.
Yeah. So, when as you were coming in your career, has anyone been a mentor to you, or have
Oh,
you mentored someone else as well?
yeah, correct. Both things. I got different mentors, and I was able to also be the mentor of different people. Um, you know, Something that I can say here is that every mentor, uh, brought me something new. I mean, I was able to take something from each of them, from those different opinions. Even when I say mentors, they were also my bosses. you know and one thing that I always made sure is to learn something from every boss that you have. Some of them became my mentors, but some of them were only like my bosses at some point. But what I mean is that you need to, and this is my advice, is like you need to make sure to learn from everyone and try to get those best things and best advices that people is giving you. you know and if you're able to do that, you're able to develop yourself in a really quick way, if you know what I mean. You're really developing yourself. Not everyone is really aware of those things, or maybe are not aware that they really need to take that insight, because maybe sometimes you have a mentor but you are not really make the most of that. So my advice is make the most of that and make sure to take all those learnings, and then of course apply to your career. If you're a mentor, you know on the other side, make sure to bring that back, that lessons and that knowledge. Make sure to connect with the with your mentee and help them to basically develop yourself in terms of like make sure that they are able to get the knowledge, because sometimes maybe a mentor is just there sharing knowledge, but the mentee, they don't understand maybe how important this is, or they maybe are not really seeing that, if you know what I mean. So we need to really make sure that people understand those situations and make the most of that, you know.
I definitely fully understand that. And overall, like, how would you say that you've been able to grow, like, in your leadership skills, progressing through your career? How would you recommend for others to do that, especially early on in the career if they're not even in a leadership role yet?
Correct. So I always like to say in those early career stages, I always like to say that you need to be surrounded by the best ones. In terms of be surrounded of those situations and those people that can really bring something to your table, you know, like, and do not try to be better than them, because sometimes when you're in situations in where you say, why this guy is better than me? I mean, I don't like it. I mean, I don't like that he's doing this in 1 hour and I'm taking 3 hours to do this. You know, maybe people get jealous, or they got frustrated, sorry, because they were not able to do this as fast as the other person. But what you don't realize here is that that person that is better than you is actually something and someone, I mean, that can really help you to become better. If you're learning from the best ones, and if you are learning from those who are better than you, even if these are your teammate, you're really learning. You're really advancing yourself through that, you know. And always like to say that in those early stages, if you're able to get a mentor, or anyone that can guide you through the process, always request honest feedback. Always request any kind of feedback, but especially honest feedback, because what people think about you and what people see that you are not seeing is the most important in terms of like decisions and professional development. That honest opinion allow you to understand what you're doing, how people are seeing that. Probably through with all this, you will get something better to do, or you will find a solution to those challenges that you might be facing.
Oh, I 100% agree about the importance of having feedback and honest feedback at that, because, yeah, how else are you supposed to learn? And sometimes that criticism is tough to get and receive, but I'd rather it come from someone I trust than for someone else to sort of blindside with it and be like, oh, well, you missed out on this important detail, or maybe you weren't as professional as you should have been here. And I would have loved for, and in this case, I think it'd be so beneficial for a mentor or a trusted individual to help you out with that and provide that feedback.
Correct. Yes, is that's the best way, I believe.
Yeah, and overall, I did want to ask about even creating a, yeah, a personal brand. And so, for you, how do you advertise yourself? Because of course, I know, being a part of a company or a firm, that of course you're acting on behalf of the company or the firm or the organization. But how do you make yourself stand out in your own personal portfolio, especially for those who are just now starting off?
Yeah. So in order to building your personal branding, the first thing that you need to understand, and you need to define, is your values and your mission and your vision. This is like starting a company, but the company is you. The product is yourself. I- So the way of creating this is the same way that you are creating a company. You know, um, those things that you create and those things that you define for yourself should be always connected to your real self. What I mean by this is that be yourself. Authenticity is thing that always make things better. One thing that I learned is that through the journey, you will see that those best moments, those best opportunities, those best people that you connect with are those who you basically show yourself, in where you really show your real self, and you were honest about yourself, and your presence were really authentic, if you know what I mean. So, and especially, sorry, I mean, I was forgetting about this, and especially keep that digital presence authentic, if you know what I mean. That's really important, and at the same time, through all this time, be consistent, and keep your presence, because that's one thing that you always need to understand, that you build yourself through your actions, not through what you say. What really makes the difference is your actions. So if you're saying something and that is connected to a consistent behavior, and these two things, what you say and what you do, are connected, and they are aligned, you will get that result. You will get that branding of yourself. If you say one thing and you do another thing, you will not get good results. You know, so it's a mix of things, as I said. So, I mean, a kind of summary of all this is that first you need to make sure about your vision, your mission, and your values. Let's review them. Let's make sure what those are for you, and what you want to communicate to the people. Then let's not forget that you need to be yourself all the time. Authenticity is what makes the difference. And the last thing is be consistent in what you do and what you say. If you have these three key things, I'm pretty sure that your personal branding will grow every day, and I'm pretty sure that you will get the best opportunities, because with these three things, if you develop them and you make sure to do this, I'm pretty sure that you will get good results.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about authenticity, and I think it's so true. And action speaks so much louder than words. And I think it even goes into a further conversation that, one action may not per se define you, but a series of actions certainly does. And I definitely, wholeheartedly agree with what you were saying. And even going further, for those who are trying to get into a field, especially public relations at that, how would you say that these upcoming professionals can not just, of course, build their brand, but also continue to have time for themselves and not get burnt
Mhm.
out? But yeah, but how can someone, not just, of course, build their brand and, build up themselves in the field, but also not get burnt out in the process, maintain that balance and time for themselves?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, the fact that people sometimes in those early stages, they got through the burning out at some point, and it's kind of difficult and kind of challenging. You know, uh, I speak about this in my company. I provide different trainings about this, and I always like to give the different like main advices here. So the first thing to face that burnout situation is uh, time blocking and deadlines. So let's make sure to define that time slot in where you work 100% in a focused way through something. you know this could be a really short time, because maybe people sometimes think that they cannot really do this, or they say, I cannot take 20 minutes to do one specific thing. But later, if you think about this twice, you realize that people can wait for you 20 minutes. And those 20 minutes in where you are 100% in one thing and you're doing one thing at a time really make the difference and really help you to get that result that you were looking for. Of course, this is different from an urgency situation or an incident, but let's make sure to always try to get that specific time for one specific thing and only that. Maybe 20 minutes, maybe 1 hour, I don't know. But if you start doing that and you always do one step at a time, like one task at a time, you will see differences there, and that will always help you to relax yourself. And the deadlines are also important, because if you know where you need to deliver something, you can prepare yourself for that and you can organize the whole project. Maybe it's a simple report, but if you know that this is for that time and for that day, that and with that information, just the simple deadline, you can organize your calendar, you can organize everything, you know. So that's like my first step. The second step, or like the second advice here that I always like to share, is the Pomodoro technique. You know, I'm not sure if you heard about this, but this is really really interesting, which is part of time logging as well. In where basically you work during 20 or 25 minutes in one specific task, and then you take a break of 5 minutes. You know, and then you repeat this like 4 times, and you complete like a Pomodoro some way that's like the name. Uh, and this help you to, you know, working focus way through different tasks. At the end, you're talking about like 2 hours, more or less. You don't need to do this for 2 hours. Maybe you need to do one time, but this idea of be focused on one thing and then take a break, a short break, 5 minutes. Because what is also important here is that taking those breaks and taking that time to get relaxed and to recharge are also important. I always like to do this kind of, uh, you know, I don't know how to say this in English, like this kind of analysis in where I see people like the battery of a phone. You know, if you don't charge your phone at some point and you are always using this, you will, I mean, the quality of the phone will not be good. The processes that you're doing there, the apps or whatever, will not be working well. So at some point you need to recharge. And when I say recharge, I'm not saying sleep, which is always important. What I mean is that if you, while you're working, you take these little breaks and these little moments to recharge yourself, and this could be even 5 minutes, 10 minutes, not more than that. There are people that, of course, take 30 minutes, for example. But my message here is that you need to be aware that those moments of relaxing and not doing anything related to that specific task are one way to improve your efficiency, and to improve your quality, because it's recharging time basically. Then, the other thing that I always like to recommend is that you do lift of what you need to do during the day. I start my day doing a list of those main tasks and main things that I need to do during the day, and I try to make them all, or I try to define priorities. When you have a clear paper or whatever you're using, of what you need to do, and you are able to see this and able to track this during the day, that will also help you to make this better and to complete this during the day, because this is part of those task organizations out during the day. Sorry. So let's always make sure to do lift, and in that way you can organize the things that you need to do. And the final thing is about priorities. I'm not sure if you if you ever heard about the Eisenhower matrix. This is the matrix in where you define what is important and what is not, and what is urgent and what is not. And based on how you uh, do the evaluation of each thing that you need to do, you take a different action. So basically, if something is urgent and important, you need to do it now. If something is not urgent but is important, you need to decide where or when you need to do this. You program that task. If something is not important but is urgent, you need to delegate this. And if something is not important and it's not urgent, you need to delete it. You know. So all this is about defining priorities. So that's the main message here. You need to define priorities. Not everything could be priority number one, because, and here's my main message: if everything is priority number one, nothing is priority number one. So defining priorities is about making sure what is the real importance of each thing and the urgency, and define that. And if you do this, that will really make the change in how you work.
What you just said, I mean, just really highlights something I feel like it's so important is that truly, if you prioritize everything, you are prioritizing nothing. I think that's a lesson that so many of us, myself included, definitely need to focus in on sometimes because sometimes when tasks come up, that especially if you're doing more than one thing, like college and work at the same time or numerous jobs, that there are a lot of things that are your priorities, but like you're saying, delegating okay, this needs to be done first. This needs to be done afterwards, and all within a timely manner with proper communication. I mean, that's important to know and understand, especially for young and upcoming professionals and those who have even been doing their job for a while. I mean, I think that's something we all need to be reminded about here and now.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, I totally agree with that. And at some point, I went through that as well. So part of my learning through those challenges were all this, basically.
I mean, that's definitely interesting. And I did want to, ask, what was it? And before we head over to, like I said, some of our final questions, I did want to ask too. So you had been involved in a lot of different industries, within your PR work, from education to technology to healthcare and everything. So how is it for you being able to, to manage those different fields and to, yeah, use your skills in one to help out another?
So they were different in a lot of perspectives. So this helped me to, uh, understand how is the type of profile in each market. And when I say type of profile, I mean the kind of people that you come across in different markets. What you learn from there is that adaptation in terms of priorities, values, and even business interest that each person have, sorry, is really important to keep in mind. I mean, and the approach and the way that you communicate is totally different in a lot of aspects, and that also give you new knowledge. I mean, one of the things that I always love about working in an agency and having the chance to work in a different markets is that you learn new things every day from different markets, from different things, and that all that, as I said, not only give you like new insight, but that uh, understanding that the way that you connect with people is different. The way that you deliver the message is different. It's not the same talking with healthcare professionals that influencers. I mean, in terms of, I mean, uh, actors or actresses, in the entertainment market. Two different kind of people, two different kind of ways to communicate, basically. So that's my big lesson. That clear way to understand that the way that you need to communicate is different in each market, and really make the difference. I mean, if you are able to understand this, make the difference in terms of find a way to be effective in what you are communicating.
I love that, and that heads right into the last question before we head into our some of our closing thoughts, which is so overall, what would you say is the most effective way to network, at least in your opinion? And yeah, having a few years of being within the public relations field.
I get it. So I always like to say the same here, which is networking is not about collecting contacts. I remember that timing where went to a conference and everyone were like, "How many business cards you have? How many you?" And everyone were like comparing themselves to like the number of business cards that they were getting. And I was like, I'm not thinking about the quantity. I'm thinking about the quality. So that's the main thing here. When you are thinking about connecting with someone, you should not be thinking about how many people you connected. You need to think about how well that connection was. Maybe you are going to a conference and you are meeting one only people, but that connection changed your life, or changed your career. And in order to do this, there are, I think, two main things to keep in mind in general. The first thing is stay active, and develop that relationship after the first contact. So, what I mean here is that first contact and meeting new people is easy. Connecting with someone for first time is easy. What is difficult is to build that relationship through the time and keep that active through the time. And that's the main thing. In order to develop your network, you need to make sure to maintain those relationships through the time, through being yourself, through different things, and that's another conversation, but make sure to do that. And the other thing is that always try to offer help, because generosity builds stronger relationships, you know being someone who always is there for you, or who always is willing to help you, really makes the difference, you know. And this is like the main rule: what you give is what you get. If you're giving good things, you're getting good things. It's the same thing. It's not about thinking about this when you're actually doing this, because that's not how this works. But what I mean here is that if you're always giving to people, if you're always there to help them, in the time that you have, in the time, in how you are able to, like, based on what you have, because not always you are able to help them. But if you're willing to connect with them and stay active and be there for them, that's the best thing that you can do to network and to, I believe, connect with people, and in general, not only in a professional way. So that's, I think, like the best advice that I can give.
Well, I definitely think that it is just so important, like you're saying, and that the aspect of maintaining those relationships, I believe, is so important. While of course there is a power and one-time connections, I also believe that it's so important when you're able to maintain some of these connections, and that you have to put the work in sometimes. That it's not like, oh yeah, like great meeting you, I'm never going to speak to you again. No, you have to, to do stuff. If someone asks you to do something, you do it, to respond back. If you're not able to do it, let them know that. You know,
Hmm.
it's a relationship is a two-sided thing. You have to put in the work, just like any other relationship.
Correct, correct. That's the main thing here. And this always is connected to what I said before, authenticity. It's always connected, and the best relationships that you can get in any field, in person, in your personal life, in your professional side, whatever, are those relationships which are authentic. And being authentic is about being there for the other person sometimes, and be yourself all the time for that other person.
Oh, 100%. And I think that this leads just really nicely, and of course, to our end segment of the show, where I start by asking, so what does it mean for you to be here as a guest on the show and to build our connection over this past hour or so?
Yeah, it was really good. I really like it. I always like to talk about all these things. Every time that I talk about this, not only allow me to reinforce what is actually good at some point for me, at least to review what was part of the lessons that I got through the time. But I always like to connect with people, and in terms of connections like this, it's really interesting to see the other opinion and to see how we can create a better conversation and a great insight. What I love about this is insights, conclusions, like learnings. That's what I really like about this.
I love that. And I definitely believe that you brought so much insight into this conversation. And I think anyone that wants to enter the public relations field, I think will have learned a lot, from this conversation and even otherwise. But in case anyone has any further questions, where are the best places be for someone to connect with you and learn more about you?
Yeah, sure. So you can connect with me through email or on LinkedIn, on social media. You can connect with me there, and happy to, help you or connect or whatever you need. Happy to be there. If I have time, I will be there, if you know what I mean. I'm really busy all the time, but part of what I said, if you really want to connect with someone, you need to be there for that people and make sure to keep that relationship through the time. I mean, being active, be focus, always follow up and try to really connect with that person.
Oh, 100%. And speaking of time, I know that that you are a pretty busy person. But I'm so glad that you were able to squeeze in time for the conversation today, and a little bit more time than we thought we had.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was really good to have this, and thank you so much for inviting me. I love this conversation.
Oh, I absolutely loved it too, and the pleasure is all mine. And I'm gonna let you go ahead and end this out by sharing whether it be a life lesson, inspirational thought, or whatever the case may be. Facundo, the floor is all yours.
Okay, so you mean one short lesson, you mean, or like whatever?
Yeah, it can be a short lesson, long lesson, whatever what you'd like to share.
Okay, so I can say that two I will say two quick things. So the first one is learn from everyone. Make sure to connect with everyone and learn from everyone, your friends and your enemies, because everyone at some point can teach you something. If you're able to see the best things from that people, the good things, you will be able to go through all the way. Learn from everyone and for everything that you come across, any process, anything. You know, uh, um, the second thing is that you need to be yourself. Being yourself is a really good business. Being authentic is a really good business. That's the main thing here. When you do that, you're really making the difference. And if you're willing to do whatever it takes to reach your goals, and you are yourself through all that way, I'm pretty sure that you will get that place as fast as you are imagining. Really, you will be there really fast.
I love that learning from from others and to include your enemies. I think that is just such a powerful statement. Thank you so much for, like I said, for coming on, for speaking with us, and truly, I am excited for us to keep in touch.
Great, thank you so much. I love this conversation, and we keep in touch.
Yes, we certainly will. For those tuning in, thank you so much as always for tuning into the Tansson Talks show. I always appreciate your support and continue tuning in every week as we continue on our mission to bring people together. I'll see you next time. Take care, friends.